I promised I wasn't going to say a single thing about this DLC. I've failed. I'm not even going to class this as a review, I'm going to class it as a rant. While I haven't spoiled any of the main plot for the Siege of Paris, there is some for some of the side quests, so this is your warning. When Wrath of the Druids released back in May, I said I was pleasantly surprised. It was more of the same, but it was entertaining enough. I also said I hoped it was a good omen for the Siege of Paris. Oh, how wrong I could be. You know what, let's just skip over the more of the same issue, because it was going to be. There was going to be the same activities, and tasks, and raiding, and of course barricaded doors. Valhalla wouldn't be Valhalla if there wasn't a door barricaded from the other side. The map this time around is smaller than the map of Ireland, which is something I've been crying out for, but it still feels empty. Ireland felt different to England. I can't say that at all about France. There are large parts of the environment where you'd be hard pushed to tell it apart from the majority of England. Ubisoft really do create wonderful worlds, but you can only get so much enjoyment out of photo mode and looking at them. There's no enjoyment in travelling from one end of the map to the other to complete a task when it's just mindless horse riding. Quite frankly, I don't care about the story. I feel like we've done this all before. Eivor goes to another clan and helps out, but realistically it's to benefit their own people. The thing is, it's quite a significant period in Viking history, but I feel like we've done a whole game of this. The Norse versus the Christians. Except this time the Christians are a bit insane. Not that they were overly sane in Wrath of the Druids, but you know. The majority of the supporting characters are annoying, with the exception of Torka and maybe Richardus. And Eivor has decided that apparently they want to start sneaking about like an assassin. In the DLC that is Viking heavy, they want to start creeping about in the shadows like an assassin. Let that sink in. Which brings me on to the Infiltration Missions. You know what, I gained a whole new appreciation for the black box assassination missions from Unity and Syndicate during my replays this year. They weren't very focused in Unity. You could take an action and never know if and how it would pay off in the end, while in Syndicate where they were much more informative, giving you a better idea of what you'd achieve without saying what would happen. Then there's Valhalla, where you have your hand held so much that's just not interesting.
I could look for the drunk's daughter at the slums, or see if there's more to learn here.
When you look at the unique kills in Unity and Syndicate, they had an interesting result if you pulled it off. In Valhalla, it feels like each and every time Eivor puts on a disguise and sneaks into an underground tomb. That's it. I haven't been blown away. Of course you can run in and slash everybody apart if you want. It wouldn't be Valhalla if you couldn't. But the black box missions just feel so out of place in this game. There's never been any real encouragement to be stealthy up till this point, so why start now? This whole DLC is very Viking heavy in plot, which just makes the stealthy approach even more out of place. There are 2 black box missions right in the middle of the Siege of Paris. That completely throws off the pacing of the whole game. How many times in Valhalla have we stormed a castle or a fortress for a full-on battle? Then we get to this DLC titled The Siege of Paris and we're not doing that. Then there's my biggest bugbear with all of this. Literally. The bugs and glitches. More than once I've been forced to load a previous save file because I've been travelling somewhere and then Eivor will just stop. Won't move. They're stuck and all I can do is move the camera. Then there's the smaller things, like when Eivor would only walk, wouldn't run, even in the section where they had to follow somebody. Then there was the moment where I had the French Queen on the back of my horse and she flew off because there was a story beat to take place. That was the moment Eivor should have just stopped. The NPC didn't need to fly off like she'd been dragged to hell by some sort of evil spirit. The stealth is still an absolute mess in this. And you'd think, how can you have black box missions if the stealth is such a mess? Well, there's really a quite simple solution. Either don't put any guards there, or have them all standing with their back to you, all the way through the path you need to follow. How very assassin-like. No, sorry, wait, Eivor isn't an assassin. Or a hidden one, as is more accurate at this point of the timeline. Oh, and what did the hidden ones leave behind in the Paris Bureau that we've got to explore? Well, sweet FA, quite frankly. I know they left in a bit of a hurry, but come on lads and lasses, a single sword, is that what I get for the inconvenience of finding those 3 keys? I wouldn't have cared, but the whole process was so easy. There was none of the puzzling of the bureaus in England. The biggest puzzle in all of this DLC was trying to make the parkour work in sections where you needed to use it. I miss the werewolves from Wrath of the Druids. I never ever thought I would say that in an Assassin's Creed game, but at least they were a bit more interesting than all of this. But speaking of the werewolves, well done to you, Eivor. You've got through a whole DLC without getting high. I'm proud of you. All of this DLC lacked polish and spark. It was rough around the edges, the story lacks anything to get fired up about, and it's easy. Quite frankly, I think it could have done with more thought and just a bit more time like Wrath of the Druids got. Also, not a lack of polish, but something that bugged me. They've changed Randvi's voice actress. I'm sure this is something out of Ubisoft's hands and probably explains why we didn't hear Randvi in Wrath of the Druids at all. But it now sounds like Volkard doing an impression of Randvi, and I'll never be able to unhear that now.
Joining him could be our chance to push back against this new king.
Or I could meet this Charles myself. And if you will not deal with me, I kill him.
This problem is bigger than one king. If we kill one, another will rise.
They might have to break up over this, they really might. At this point, I'm hanging around for Eivor's story. The only positive that I can take from all of this is that you can really see Eivor has become a well-rounded leader and now mentor. It's solid development that's nice to see. I've got the impression they're laying the groundwork for the continuation of Eivor's story in the next season pass. Eivor talked a lot about getting tired of the fighting, and considering their final resting place isn't in England, the comment about a leader knowing when to step aside struck me. But this is what Ubisoft do. They make games that are an absolute chore to get through, but make me grow attached to their protagonists. I'm convinced this is how I'll be drawn into whatever Assassin's Creed Infinity is, because they'll give me back somebody I won't be able to resist playing as again. They could give me a whole game of this and I wouldn't question how implausible it is, because they're giving me what I want. All I've done through this is complain, and you're probably asking, why did you keep playing then? And you know what? I bought the collector's edition and I got my season pass included, and I was damn well going to play it and get my money's worth. Am I buying the next season pass? Absolutely not, because I don't think the first season pass has been worth what was paid for it. Odyssey wasn't much better as far as the more of the same issue in content, but the fate of Atlantis was massive, and despite everything I got enjoyment out of it, even if the story was all over the place. But the thing that made Odyssey's season pass worth it in the end, the remastered copy of Assassin's Creed 3. I can assure you, the little release day mission that came with the Valhalla season pass was not worth it. If Ubisoft think them saying Odin isn't done with Eivor just yet is going to entice me to buy that second season pass, then they're sorely mistaken. If I never see Odin again in this franchise, I will be perfectly happy. Somebody can just tell me how Eivor's story ends. I'm not buying into this again. The one thing I've taken from all of this DLC is if I want to run across rooftops in Paris, I'll do it in Unity instead, because the chore of playing this DLC just isn't worth it. Thanks for watching. Drop me a comment to let me know what you thought of the Siege of Paris. If you've enjoyed what you've watched, give it a thumbs up or a subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll be back soon with another video.